Hello, welcome to the 13th Man podcast. I'm Abraham Abhishek. In this episode, I talked to Scott Edwards, captain of the Netherlands men's cricket team. Scott took over as captain recently when his predecessor Pete Saylor announced his retirement from international cricket due to persistent back injuries. And that reminds me, Scott is the first Dutch men's captain in 11 years who's not called Peter. Only time will tell whether and how this country and its cricket fans are ready for such upheaval. But the cricket team under Scott has gotten off to a great start. Last month, so that's July 15, 2022 to be exact, Scott and his lads beat USA in the semi-finals of the ICC Men's T20 World Cup Global Qualifier B. I dare you to find a tournament with a more catchy name. Anyways, with that win, the Netherlands booked a berth at round 1 of the 2022 T20 World Cup in Australia. The round 1 is kind of a qualifying round from which 4 teams qualify to the Super 12 stage, which is basically the World Cup with 12 top teams. Scott was very kind and generous with his time. We spoke about captaincy, the World Cup, cricket in the Netherlands, and something everybody's talking about, the future of ODIs, of 50-over cricket. Scott, thanks for your time. Did captaincy come as a surprise to you?
Yeah, I think within the team, we've all known about Pete's back injuries. He's had quite a lot of issues with it in the past couple of years. He's done really well to sort of keep it, I suppose, under the radar a little bit. But, when you're in the team environment, you can see that he's struggling with it. The plan was always, he wanted to get through to at least the World Cup and reassess from there. But the way things happened, the back injuries just kept sort of pulling him down. I'd spoken to him a little bit about it in terms of, he said there's chances of this sort of situation happening, but even still, it came as a shock. I love playing under him, and he's a massive part of the group. So it was, obviously disappointing, but that's just how it was.
How would you describe Peter Saylor's legacy as a skipper?
He was very much a lead from the front. So, everyone in the group looked up to him. I think everyone in, associate or international cricket probably looked up to him. Just the character he is, he walks quite tall and very easy to follow in terms of that.
What's your own vision regarding this Dutch cricket team? What place do you want to take it to?
Yeah, I think we're in quite a unique spot at the moment because obviously we've got a lot of young cricketers coming through who have got exposure at the top level against New Zealand, England, all these sort of teams. So I think, that's fast-tracked a lot of these young players. So I'm excited. I'm very excited for, what the next 2, 3, however many years to come. So very excited with the group we've got. I think we've, still got a lot of experience at the top end. So I think from what we've shown in these last couple of series, it's very exciting where this team can go from here.
Wicketkeeper, key batter, captain. Is that too much to do for one person?
No, not too much, I don't think. I've always had a sort of working relationship with Pete where, he sort of trusts my ideas and, I work a lot with him when he was captain. So I'm always thinking about it on the field. So I think taking on the captaincy, obviously there's, you have to make the decisions. I can't just put ideas out there. But in terms of that, I don't think it's a huge leap. And then, the batting and the keeping is something that, I sort of pride myself on. So when, the bowler's coming in, whether I'm keeping or batting, that's all I'm focused on, not the captaincy.
You played against England recently, who are also led by a keeper batter, a certain Mr. Jos Buttler. Did you pick up any cues from him as to how to be 3 things at the same time?
Yeah, I think I've picked up a bit from sort of everyone you play with or against. I think, Joss is a unique one in terms of I was probably more intrigued with how he was batting than the captaincy side of it. But I think you pick up more from the captains that you've previously had, whether that be Peter Boren, Peter Saylor, any captains I've had, throughout my cricketing career. So that's probably where I get a little bit of my inspiration. And then I think a little bit comes down to just sort of who I am and just, taking it as I want to, or as I see us going forward.
Scott, in a team full of professional or semi-professional players, with a professional support staff as well, coach, batting coach, bowling coach, fielding coach, the works. In such a setup, what is it that the captain actually does? What are the team captain's responsibilities?
Yeah, I think for myself, the way I see it is, obviously we have a little bit of a unique situation where, we've got a lot of young guys in the Netherlands, some on contracts, some not on contracts, and then you've obviously got some guys playing county cricket. So everyone's a little bit more spread out than they probably are in other countries. So I think my role relies a little bit around, how do you get the best out of different people, whatever circumstances they have, as well as finding a way to gel a group that, we don't play together all the time. It's almost like you come together 7 days before a series, and you've just got to, obviously we've got a great group and everyone's gets along very well, and we always do gel quite well, which makes it a little bit easier for me. But it's just finding a way to get the best out of guys from the off-field side of things, and then the on-field. I think it's you're just coming up with ideas and hoping you make the right decisions when it comes. There are obviously captain responsibilities in terms of who's bowling or who's in the team, that sort of thing. But I think a lot of it comes down to how guys perform as well. I think that probably gets overlooked a little bit sometimes, where guys are always going out there trying to perform, and then some days they do, some days they don't. Some days as a team you play well, some days you don't play so well. So it's a tricky question. From my point of view, it's you just create the best environment you can, and from there you hope the players perform well.
Congrats on being runners-up in Zimbabwe at the T20 World Cup qualifiers. So we are now definitely going to the World Cup, and we are quite pumped about that. What was Zimbabwe like? We won everything besides the final, so a good outcome by any measure, right? But was it all smooth sailing, or were there any anxious moments? Did it ever feel like there's a chance we don't make it?
It's always a possibility, isn't it? We got there. It was obviously quite a unique tour in terms of, because we've been playing so much cricket and a lot of ODI cricket, we didn't get a whole lot of time to fine-tune our T20 game. So there was a little bit of an unknown around that, I suppose. But we had two practice games in Zimbabwe against the US, which went quite well. I think we lost one, won one, but the things we gained in terms of how we wanted to play was huge. And I think going into the tournament, we were quite confident. It was quite funny that I got a lot of interviews about saying how, we're the favourite to go through and all this sort of thing, which, is how the media has to put it up. But, on their day, any of these teams can beat anyone, especially in T20 cricket. So as a team, we were trying to keep our focus one game at a time. And in the end, it was a very successful campaign. Winning our first 4 games without too many issues was good, and then obviously the final we lost. But I suppose it's better to lose that game than the semi-final.
Big stage, Australia, pace and bounce, big stadiums, big crowd. How does one prepare for all that?
Yeah, good question. It's obviously a lot different conditions to what we face here in the Netherlands. So a lot of it will come down to, how we can prepare when we get to Australia, whenever that is. The guys have all got the skills and the capabilities to perform in those conditions. I think especially with the bowling unit we have, which is quite experienced and probably has a little bit more pace than some of the other associate nations. So I think it'll suit us well. Hopefully our prep's good and we're in a good space, and then you just go out there and you try and play your best cricket.
Are you excited about the fact that it's Australia, a place you grew up in, a place you're familiar with?
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Obviously I grew up in Victoria, so our first 3 games are in Geelong, which is about an hour or so from where I grew up. So I'm sure there'll be plenty of family and friends coming along supporting the Dutch, which will be good. Hopefully if we can get through that first stage, then I reckon we might get a little bit of support around Australia, following the underdogs.
So are we doing any specific drills to prepare for the kind of pitches we'll encounter in Australia?
I think we've still got obviously 2 T20s against New Zealand this week, which will be a great preparation for us. Again, the conditions will be a little bit different, but the quality of bowling and and batsmen that you're coming up against is always good practice for the World Cup. And then again, we play Pakistan later on in the month, which will be another opportunity to face some world-class bowlers and batsmen. So that's huge preparation for us. And then after that, we have probably about a month or so to get our skills fine-tuned for the T20 World Cup.
Scott, from a Dutch cricket fan point of view, this summer has been fantastic. By the end of it, we would have seen West Indies, England, New Zealand and Pakistan come down in the space of a few months. This is obviously a big deal for us because these big teams rarely come down here. It has been great, a lot of fun to see some big international names in the flesh. What has this summer of cricket been like from a player's point of view?
Yeah, it's been awesome. I think all the players, the staff, everyone that's been a part of it, we've sort of relished the opportunity to play against these big teams. It's as a professional or semi-professional cricketer, it's what you want to do in life, I suppose, is come up against these bigger nations and perform on the big stage. So yeah, it's been huge for us. I think all the guys have really enjoyed it and gelled well together. A little bit of a shame we haven't got those wins on the board. I think we've found ourselves in positions to win games, and we just haven't quite closed on those. But yeah, hopefully these next sort of 5 games coming up, we can find a couple of wins in there.
You've been on a bit of a hot streak in ODI cricket, 580 runs at an average of nearly 50 over the last 10 matches. What has gone into that?
I'm not really sure, to be honest. I think, I had a good series in Qatar, I suppose, which probably gave me a little bit of confidence coming into the summer. But I think one of the things I heard growing up was always not to ride the highs too high or the lows too low. So obviously, went from a good series in Qatar to a pretty bad series in New Zealand. So it's just finding a way to be level with your performances, and the more we play these teams, the more guys are getting confident, facing these bowlers. So yeah, I suppose that's something that's probably clicked a little bit, which has been nice.
I would like to talk to you about ODI cricket. As a cricket fan, I see Test cricket or 4-day cricket and T20 cricket being 2 very distinct formats, requiring 2 very distinct skill sets. T20 seems to be about being explosive, about hitting skill, about expanding your hitting arc, being a 360-degree player. And tests are clearly about technique, about resilience, bowling long spells, batting long, executing your skills again and again over several days. So I get what these 2 formats are about. ODI cricket seems to fall somewhere in the middle, neither here nor there. What are your views on this? From a player point of view, is ODI cricket having an identity crisis? Or is it fine? Is it its own thing?
Yeah, I think for us as an associate nation, I think ODI cricket is our our sort of benchmark at the moment in terms of at this stage you can't we're not playing 4 or 5 day cricket. So from an associate point of view, it's still our longest format and holds its own in that sense. I think in terms of globally, I think there's obviously been some unbelievable games of ODI cricket in the last few years. You look at the 2019 World Cup final. So I think it's got a place, and you look at teams like England and the way they're going about it now, where it is, there's no middle 20 overs where you just knock it around. They're just trying to go hard the whole time. So I think in that sense, I think it definitely holds its own, where teams are, getting close to that 400 sort of mark a lot more, or 300, 400 mark a lot more regularly. So I think it's still got a place in cricket. There's obviously been a little bit of chatter about it recently, but yeah, there's from a playing point of view, there's skills that are a lot different to T20 cricket that come into 1-day cricket. So I think it's definitely still got a place.
So how much of a blow was the discontinuation of the ODI Super League to ODI cricket and by extension to associate cricket? Because as you mentioned, it is the longest form of the game that associates play.
Yeah, it is. You look at some of the associate nations coming through, and I think we have been bridging that gap between associates and full members. You look at Scotland or Ireland, these sort of teams as well that have, knocked off big teams. So that was, a great opportunity for associate nations to, win the league below, to give yourself an opportunity to come into the ODI Super League. And, speaking with other associate cricketers, that was your benchmark and what you were trying to achieve. So it's a little bit disappointing that the Super League's been discontinued. But, there's still obviously going to be hopefully a lot of cricket around, whether that's between associates or if full members are coming across to associate nation countries. That's all we can hope for, I suppose. But yeah, it is a little bit disappointing that we're not going to be in the Super League, or there is no Super League from here on in.
Yeah. Something about yourself, Scott. You were born and grew up in the Southern Hemisphere. My geography is not very good, but I don't think it's physically possible to be any more further away from the Netherlands than Tonga in Australia. So how did you end up here in the Netherlands, of all places?
Yeah, so I've got family in the Netherlands. So, we've come across here a few times when I was younger for holidays and whatnot to see family. Obviously grew up in Australia, and then when I finished school, I was always planning to do a year away playing cricket. So whether that be England, Scotland, Ireland, the Netherlands, and it just presented a great opportunity to come across, see the family for 6 months and then, play some cricket while I'm here. So that was where it was when I first came across. Got to know a few of the guys, and from there stayed in touch with some of the players and coaches. From there, I had the opportunity to come across for I'm trying to remember, it was a trip to the UAE where Tobias had a hernia, so they needed a backup keeper. So I came across, loved my time with the guys, and then, sort of from there made the commitment that I was going to, come and play and live in the Netherlands. So that's sort of how it came about, and haven't looked back since, so it's been great.
Having grown up in Australia, where cricket is huge, how does it feel as a professional player to ply your trade in the Netherlands, where cricket is a very marginal sport, to say the least?
Yeah, it's obviously different because, in Australia where I grew up, you walk around on a summer's day and you've got kids playing backyard cricket or at the park, with cricket bats and balls in hand. So you're watching. From 7, 8 years old, you're watching test matches on Boxing Day, which is, a little bit different over here where obviously, the cricketing community is quite small. But I think with that, it brings its own positives in terms of, if you go to a cricket ground, chances are, every single person or close to every person that's here. So, it's a tight-knit community. All the players, know each other, and that's another strange thing. For me, when you're going out to play a game, everyone. It's after a game, you're hanging out, having a drink together or whatever it is. So I love that side of Dutch cricket.
How much scope do you think there is to grow the game further here, and what would need to go into that?
Yeah, it's a good point. That's obviously one thing as players, and as Dutch cricket as a whole. We need to be looking to expand the game, get more people involved. So the more people that are playing cricket, obviously, the better the standard's going to be, and the further we can go as a country. I think this summer's been huge for that in terms of pardon me, around clubs. You've obviously got kids that are looking up and seeing, wow, these guys are playing against New Zealand, they're playing against England. That could be me in 10 years time, whatever it is. So hopefully, that's had a big impact on some of the young cricketers coming through. And, from there, we've just got to find ways of, getting more young kids involved and keeping young cricketers in the game. Obviously, coming up against bigger sports like, football and hockey and all those sort of things brings its own challenges. But, I'm hopeful that, in the future, Dutch cricket can grow and we can get to a point where, there's, lots of kids, lots of senior sides coming through.
Thanks for your time, Scott, and best of luck against New Zealand.
Cool. Thanks, mate.